So you were just telling me, so go back to what you were talking about.
I keep coming up against people who I find are competitive. I know in, the part inside of me that they've got their stuff to work on, but there's a part of me that keeps coming up.
Okay, so close your eyes. Okay, that feeling that just came up in your body, where do you feel that?
Like here.
Yeah. And what's the sensation?
Fear. It's like a anxiety feeling, like about to lose my breath, got a fright sort of feeling.
Okay, so I want you to focus on that feeling, and I'm going to count it up 1 to 5. And so when I count 1 to 5, just really focus on that feeling and make it as strong as you can with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just want you to imagine that there's a golden thread attached to that feeling that goes all the way back to the very first time you felt that feeling, when you're there, just letting me know. So just drifting back, following that sensation that runs down through your chest all the way back to the first time. Yeah. So drift into the scene, just letting me know how old you are.
I'll be about 10 or 11.
10 or 11, and just in a few words, what's giving them the feeling?
I'm being told by an older sibling and a parent that I'm less valuable in many ways.
Okay, so I want you to drift into the scene, and I want you to give the 10-year-old a hug and let you know that you're there with them. What does she need to know in that moment? What does she need to know in that moment that she didn't know? What is it that she didn't know in that moment to let this feeling go?
That they're wrong. They're broken people, and they have no idea just how good you are.
Yeah. So I want you to let her know that. Let her know that this is this stuff, that they're broken, and this is not about her. She is perfect. She is absolutely fine. She is perfect just the way she is. This is their stuff, not hers. How does she feel hearing that?
Hopeful.
Hopeful. And what else does she need to know in that moment?
That she is good enough, that she's important.
Yeah. So I want you to let her know that. I want you to let her know that she is good enough, that she is important. As you look at her, what do you see?
A little girl all alone.
Yeah, she's a little girl all alone. I want you to let her know that from today onwards, she's never going to be alone anymore. You will always be with her. How does she feel hearing that?
Good.
Beautiful. What I want you to do is I actually want you to drift her up out of that scene and out of that time, because she's not there anymore. And I want you to imagine that there is a cord that is attached to her that goes down into that scene and time. And I want you to imagine that any stuff that she has taken on from that scene, that time, the people, any stuff that she's taken on, ideas, beliefs, just being drawn out of her body down into that scene, because she never has to carry it again. She's not there anymore. So drawing, some people feel like it's a heavy black lug, just drawing out any ideas, beliefs, stuff, especially that isn't hers, drawing down into that scene and time. And once it's all out and you've cut the cord, let me know. Just getting it all out of her, knowing it's not her stuff to carry. She's perfect just the way she is.
Yeah.
Now I want you to wash that scene and that time away completely, so it's gone way in the past. She's not there anymore. And imagine the most beautiful light coming down through the top of her head and through her body, especially where the old feeling was. And then letting me know how she feels.
Right.
Beautiful. And what's happened to that feeling? Is it there or has it gone?
It's gone.
Beautiful. So put her into your heart so she's one with you. Let that beautiful light flow through your body. And just let me know now what's happened to that feeling in you. Just see if you can bring it up. You'll find it's gone.
Can't bring it up.
Beautiful. So now I want you to go into the future past today, just maybe a few weeks, and let me know what's different about you now that that feeling is gone. What's different about you?
I'm not intimidated.
Beautiful. What else is different?
I'm sure I'm on the right path.
Beautiful. So just notice how that feels. And then bring that good feeling back into the room and opening your eyes. Feeling good. Awesome. How do you feel?
So much lighter. Just starting to talk to you, I could feel, because I was thinking about these people and situations, and I could feel it growing sort of in my chest, like an anxiety feeling. And then, like, even now, just talking about that and thinking about those people, it's not there where normally it is.
Yeah.
Situation that I have a connection with those people, I start to feel that. I did start to feel that. But
And what we were talking about before is these implicit memories, these memories that start back in time, and how they start is really interesting. So say when you, I think I've explained to you this anyway, you know, you have times in our life where we have a heightened emotion. So something happens to kind of stir us. And for the process to follow through and the memory to be stored correctly, you get wired up, and at the peak, you've either got to run away, fight, or understand what's going on, have the emotional resources. And when those things are in place, that memory in that time or whatever's going on gets processed correctly, and then the memory gets stored in an appropriate way. But then there's times in our life, like which you went back to, where it usually goes back to very young, or maybe the death of someone without getting to say goodbye as an older person, but generally goes back quite young, where there's times in our life where we have a heightened emotion, something happens to us. But when our arousal cycle kind of comes on, we get to that point peak where our brain has to decide what to do. And if we can't run away from the situation, we can't fight it, or we don't have the emotional resources to understand there's nothing actually wrong with me. They've got issues, which we tend to get when we're older. But at 10, we can't understand that. Our brain is wired to think that everything is, you know, our fault and there must be something wrong with us. Then, of course, the brain sees it as a big threat and takes almost a snapshot, stores that memory in our limbic system, emotional feeling brain, and then it becomes a feeling in our body. Every time that memory is stimulated, instead of a picture, we get a sensation because it's stored in our feeling brain. And then over time, it just keeps on happening. Every time that feeling comes up, the brain takes the photo, puts a new memory on top of the other one, and the feeling gets stronger and stronger until we get triggered all the bloody time, and for things that are not even associated with the first time. So that feeling that you had, we would call anxiety, or we'd call whatever name we'd give it. But in actual fact, all it was a memory stuck in that part of the brain and the limbic system. So it got triggered up. We triggered it by having a conversation. The sensation came up in your body, which is the memory going, I'm here, get away from the situation. I don't like this. And then we just use that as a way to tell the brain that, hey, this is safe now, by changing the memory enough to get it to move and process. Yeah, pretty cool, eh?
It's awesome.
So it's a sensation, it's not a thing, which is really interesting and so easy to shift it off. like to switch that feeling off. And when you think about sensations, right, if you are around those people and every time you're around them, this feeling comes up, which is your body going, danger, like get away from those people, they're a threat. Then of course, if that feeling doesn't come up, the way you interact with them is going to be completely different because you're not being triggered by that sensation. So everything we do is based on a sensation. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a runner, so I'm like, okay, not going to have anything to do with this situation, which is my run flight, and I'm just done, cut out. And actually, I know when I think about things, it would be better for both them and I if we could manage to work through
conversation.
Conversation. I'm just like, no, I'm out of here normally.
And if you like, when we go on into really good research about trauma, what you find is that when that sensation comes up, your mind, because that memory is not processed, goes, every part of you becomes that person that was in that first moment. So the 10-year-old you comes through in that moment when that feeling is up. That's how I can see it, because your eyes change. I call it sliding. Your eyes go blurry. And that's when I know that I'm not talking to you now. I'm talking to a 10-year-old. And that's how I can get you to close your eyes. But when you are in that space and you're triggered, your body is going to follow through the response it created at 10. So the you now, the Sarah now, will be able to have those conversations. We'll be able to get through difficult times. But when that feeling is there, you are the 10-year-old, and that 10-year-old learnt to run, to get away from the situation. And so you run. The feeling comes up, you run. Yeah.
As a kid, I was constantly running away and places and things to get away.
And it's your that personality that ran just wasn't processed. Because one thing about these memories is when they leave the part of the brain where they're kind of sticky or stuck, they go through a part of the brain that timestamps that memory. And that's when we can understand that that memory is in the past. So if the memory doesn't make it through that space, it's happening right now. So that personality, some people, if you're talking more spiritual, is call it like a part of our soul is stuck in time. And she comes through and takes over while you're in that moment. So your behaviors are very different to what they would be naturally. And that's why people like are so into health, and they go for runs and they eat healthy, but at night time an emotion comes up and they find themselves in the cupboard eating biscuits, and they don't know why, because memory's been triggered, which sparks a sensation in the body, which sparks a personality to come through that learned at a young age, if I eat biscuits, it will stop this feeling. So they eat biscuits, and then they come into their body again, and we're back to being 45-year-old, whatever. And the 45-year-old is like, why did I do that? I don't eat biscuits. I'm such an idiot, or I'm a loser, or I can't control, and what thinking goes afterwards. Why am I doing that? And most people are quite confused because they have no idea why those behaviors are happening, when in actual fact, your brain is working perfectly. It's doing what it can do to keep you alive, which is whatever was created at 10 years old. Crazy, eh?
Soothing, I guess, isn't it, when you're eating?
Yeah.
But it's funny when you say about the running away, it so matches me as a and I do it. I just don't run away and hide at a park or at the back of a house.
You hide at work. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You still got a nice place to go and hide. It's interesting, Yeah. So now that's one thing that we kind of shifted that feeling. What else can we do? Is there anything else that you're struggling with at the moment that does bring up, now that we've kind of talked about what is going on in the mind? What else can we do?
So I struggle with stress. I do a million things an hour, and I find myself, I don't tend to put a limit on things, and I in a million different directions all at the same time, and those things end up loading me with stress to a point where my body's going whoa, and I'll get sick, and I'll get
close your eyes. Where do you feel that in your body? It's just starting to come up.
everywhere, but mainly my shoulders, like between my spatula, the shoulder blades.
Okay, so I want you to focus on that feeling again. Just focus on that feeling and just make it as strong as you can. So focus on that feeling as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want you to imagine there's a golden thread once again attached to that feeling that goes all the way back to the very first time you felt that feeling. Your mind drifting and floating back. When you're there, just give me a nod.
Yeah.
Drift into the scene. How old are you?
5 or 6.
And just in a few words, what's giving her the feeling, the little 5 or 6-year-old?
She has to look after her younger siblings.
Yeah.
She has to be perfect.
Okay, so I want you to drift into the scene and give that beautiful little 5-year-old a hug. Let her know that you love her and that you're with her. What does she need to know in that moment that maybe she didn't understand at 5? What does she need to know to completely release this feeling today, once and for all? What does she need to know?
That she's perfect, she's good enough. She doesn't need to please anybody. Her worth.
So tell her that. How does she feel hearing that?
She doesn't believe it.
Yep. What can you say to her to make her believe it? Who is it that's making her feel that way? Where is she picking that up from? She's only 5.
Her parent.
Okay, so I want you to imagine there's a cord attached between her and her parent. She's only 5. And I want you to imagine that any stuff that she's taken on from that parent is being drawn out of her body. We don't give it back to the parent, as they are who they are based on their own experiences. But for her, it's about drawing that out. She's only 5. This is not her stuff to carry. Sometimes when people have beliefs or ideas or things happen and they're not happy with themselves, they get all of that energy, and it's almost like they throw all of that energy at someone else. And it's the sensitive ones that catch that. They catch it and then they hold on to it and they carry it forever. The other person ends up feeling better, but the little child can carry that through their life and it wasn't even theirs to begin with. So I want you to imagine that she draws any ideas, beliefs out of her body now, knowing that she is perfect. She is fine just the way she is. This is not her stuff. It's not hers to carry. When it is completely out of her body, let me know.
Yep.
Now cut that cord and set her free today, once and for all.
Yep.
Bring a beautiful light into her body, a beautiful, loving light. So it flows through her body, especially where the old feeling was sitting. And let me know how she feels now.
Free.
Beautiful. I want you to bring her up out of that scene in time and place. She's not 5 anymore. And wash that scene away completely. Wash that scene away completely. And then from up above, I want you to look at her and let me know what's happened to that feeling.
It's gone.
Beautiful. So put her into your heart and let that beautiful light flow through you. Because she is 5, you're going to notice that this part of you that's been stuck way back in time, all of her good qualities are going to come to you now. You might notice that you feel quite creative. You might want to get outside and play. You might even have colors brighter. You might notice things that a little one would notice, like the flowers. And so now I want you to just check in with yourself, check in on that feeling. What's happened to that feeling in you now?
It's gone.
Beautiful. And so once again, drift into the future past today. And just notice what's different about you now that that feeling's gone.
I'm relaxed.
Beautiful. What else?
Just see myself strolling.
Yeah.
Not racing or running. Just strolling.
So just notice how that feels. Then bring that good feeling back into the room and opening your eyes. Beautiful. How do you feel?
Good. You're a bit tired.
Yeah. It is almost like, I kind of liken it a little bit to, if people go to the gym and they work their body, because we are doing something, in the brain where we are actually shifting things around and creating a mismatch or a different experience for the brain when we're triggered. It is a little bit probably like going to the brain gym.
Yeah.
So you feel, people tend to feel lighter, they feel free, they feel better, but they do feel a little bit tired.
Yeah, I definitely say all of that. I could feel myself quite tense and I didn't realize I was tense. But then that whole letting it go, I could literally feel my muscles just relaxing.
Yeah.
Like most of the time I feel like I'm on the starting blocks for a race.
Yeah.
Right now.
So see what's happened to that feeling now in your shoulders. I think it was in the shoulders when we started. See if you can trigger it. Go on. Cool.
Yeah.
What I will do is catch up with you in a week or two, and we'll just see how those things have actually changed, kind of changed the way things are in the next few weeks, so that we can get a really cool update.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So how are you feeling?
Good. Like on my desk I have piles of what I'm doing today. Like,
yeah.
And I'm just like, and normally I'd be like, get this done, but I'm just like, I'm okay.
Crazy. The other thing is when we do have these implicit memories or these memories kind of stuck, our brain is quite focused on, or our mind or whatever part of us is quite focused on safety and survival. So when we shift this stuff around, our mind opens up. And so we have more space for creativity, growing. So our mind will move us towards more likely where we want to go, which is really cool. So actually creating a real good idea, or it's almost like a false future memory of where you want to be, really gives your mind something to focus on when it's been focusing so hard on keeping you safe and bringing these feelings up. The more, like, we'll do this more, the more we clear stuff, the more our mind gets to relax and our nervous system calms down, which is where we get into creation mode, which is bringing stuff into our life really quickly. So it's not so much spiritual manifestation. It really is, if your brain is in survival mode, it's got to work so hard on keeping you alive over things that aren't even real anymore. And when we start shifting our perception, then we can create some really good stuff pretty fast, or we can make changes in our life.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Pretty
I feel like most of my life I've just been in that survival mode, just keep going one foot in front of another and be prepared for anything because it could happen, all of that.
Yeah.
Awareness of 50 million things that could go wrong in a situation, like, oh, we're going to drive to somewhere, oh, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, so I'll prepare for the worst, hope for the best, sort of thing.
And it is a sensation, right? It's a sensation that drives that. There's nothing more. It's a sensation that's being triggered in your body, and your body's responding with a way of helping, which is giving you all of these scenarios.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
I just feel quite crazy now. Just
You feel crazy. It's a good feeling, eh?
It is a much better feeling. It's a bit like, just like having a couple of drinks or, like just, yep, relaxed.
Awesome.
Which usually takes me a lot to get, so.
Yeah, cool. All right, we'll stop it there for this. And thanks heaps for doing that.
No
For
problem.
letting us even record it, for people to learn about this stuff. And we will we'll record you in a couple of weeks, just going through what's kind of changed, so people can see like the difference and how just shifting a couple of sensations in the body can actually make a huge difference in our life.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.